Hello dear one and welcome again to this vlog. We will immediately continue. Just one little reminder, and that is, please do not forget to make your notes. Be very critical when you follow this story, this journey along. Be very critical and especially check whether it's true that scripture is really covering all these years and periods. Very important. So we will continue where we left off in the last slide, and that was this one, if I'm not mistaken. So now we come to the Exodus. So let's read. This passage comes from the LXX, oftewel the Septuagint. So this one comes from the Septuagint because there it's more accurate. Okay. Now the dwelling of the sons of Israel, so Exodus 12:40 to 41. Now the dwelling of the sons of Israel and their fathers who dwelt in the land of Canaan, and in the land of Egypt was 430 years. And it came to be at the end of 430 years, and it came to be on this very day that all the host of Yahweh went forth from the land of Egypt. So it's important to understand that this is like also a confirmation from an other viewpoint regarding the 430 years. Because here it's 430 years after the promise of Abram, the promise of God to Abram. And at the end, it came to be that all the hosts went forth from the land of Egypt. So we arrive at the year of 2500 in different ways, because also the previous text, remember here, Genesis 15, where it's 400 years from your seed. And that is the seed of Abram, and that is of course Isaac. So in two different ways we arrive to 2500, and of course that is the 50th Jubilee year, and that's 50 times 50 because the Jubilee cycle is 50 years. So it's 50 times 50 is grace times grace. Interesting, huh? That is the year in which all slaves are freed. And it was not even yet given as an instruction by God to Israel. They didn't know about the Jubilee year because they were still slaves in Egypt. And before that, they were not even a people, just one small tiny family of Jacob. So Jubilee year was not there, but it was in God's plan. So everything adds up. The year in which all slaves are freed. In the 50th year of Jubilee, Israel has been delivered from the slave house of Egypt. Very important date, of course. So I'm going to mention something very significant as well. In the same year, it happened in the same year, 2500. It's fantastic. And God is so structured. He times all his actions. It's perfectly timed. So what will I show you now? In this very year, when they were already in the wilderness on their way to the promised land, they received the law, remember, on the mountain of Sinai. So that was the first time that God made himself known through his name to Moses. Okay, remember that. That was the first time God mentions his name to Moses. Okay, let's go. And his name is Yahweh. Here. This was the first time. So the Yot, the Hey, the Waf, the Hey. So the number values of those Hebrew letters from right to left, of course, it's 10, 5, 6, 5. Yes? YHWH. Yahweh. If you how do you say that? If you add them up, these numbers, you arrive at 26. The numeric value of Yahweh, 26. And there's a lot to be said about that, also regarding our human DNA or human genome. So let's see how God has timed everything, okay? We are going to look now at the generations from Adam to Moses. Let's take a look. Boom! Look at this. It starts here at the right with Adam. So Adam, 10 generations to Noah, remember? And what was the result after that? The flood, the deluge. After the flood, there were 5 generations from Sem to Peleg. 5. And after that, the division of the earth was torn down in a lot of continents and islands, etc. So after the division, we count 6 generations from Rehu to Isaac, and the result is Egypt. Remember, the seed of Abraham will be slaves 400 years, Egypt. And after that, another 5 generations from Jacob to Moses, and the result is the Exodus. Look at this. 10, 5, 6, 5. I mean, come on. This is like, whoa. This is fantastic. Okay, we continue. I just want to show you how God operates, okay? So, this was that very important year. However, there's going to be more importance later. But what happened? They did not believe God. So disbelief resulted in their wandering in the desert for 40 years. Let's read Numbers 32 verse 13. The anger of Yahweh grew hot against Israel, and he caused them to rove about in the wilderness 40 years. There's so many places in the Bible where you can read about these 40 years, of course. Until the whole generation doing evil in the eyes of Yahweh came to end. In the Greek scriptures in Acts 13 verse 17, 18, we read, the God of this people Israel chooses our fathers and exalts the people in the sojourn in the land of Egypt, and with a high arm he led them out of it. And for about 40 years' time, he carried them as a nurse in the wilderness. So you can see here another viewpoint. Can you see that? It's fantastic. So here the anger grew hot, and he made the whole generation perish. And here you see it from another angle, where he carried them with much patience as a nurse in the wilderness 40 years. So after the 40 years was the time right, and regrettably Moses could see it only from a mountain, but he was not allowed to enter. As you know, Joshua was the one who would lead his people into the promised land. However, there were some nations to be conquered. So that took time as well. How much time? That took 10 years. And that is approximately 450 years from Isaac. Let's read Acts 13 verse 19-20. And pulling down seven nations conquered in the land of Canaan, he distributes their land by lot. About 450 years mentioned in the scriptures. And after this he gives judges till Samuel the prophet. So after this year, then we get the period of the judges, you know, Gideon, Samson, Deborah, and also Samuel as the last one. So in total, it was a period of about 10 years. Sorry, 10 years of conquests. Of course, obviously there was the Dutch word. 10 years of conquest, 2500, Exodus, the year of the Exodus, 40 in the wilderness, and 10 years of conquest. Let's read in Exodus 23, 29 to 30. That's what God says, I shall not drive them out. What is them? The nations. I shall not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land should become desolate. May it not be coming to that. And the field animal be many against you. No, may it not be coming to that. Little by little, God said, shall I drive them out from before you, until you are fruitful and you are allotted the land. So, 10 years of conquest. So we enter in this year from Adam. Let's continue. We can continue. In the same year, of course, when they entered into the land, officially, the land was allotted to them. Of course, they received the instructions regarding the Sabbath and the Jubilee years. That was the time when they received it. So let's read Leviticus 25 verse 3 to 4. 6 years, says God, shall you sow your field, and 6 years shall you prune your vineyard, and you will gather its yield. Yet in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of cessation for the land, a Sabbath to Yahweh. Your field you shall not sow, and your vineyard you shall not prune. And in 11 to 12, a jubilee year shall this one, the 50th year, be for you. You shall not sow, nor shall you reap its self-sown, neither shall you pick its untrimmed vines. For this is the jubilee, holy shall it be for you, meaning set apart. Directly from the field you shall eat its yield. Again, the instruction regarding the Jubilee year, it is consistent. Of course, consistent because you can also see before these instructions that God already calculated with the Jubilee years. So it's quite logical. So the period of judges was 370 years long. How do we know? Let's read first, and then we can make our calculations. So we go from scripture. 1 Kings 6 verse 1. It came to be in the 480th year after the sons of Israel had come forth from the land of Egypt. So that was the year 2500, right? In the 4th year, in the month of Sif, it is the 2nd month of Solomon's reign over Israel. So the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, that he began to build the house for Yahweh. So in his 4th year of reign, he started building the temple. So that was again 480 years after 2500. That was the year of the Exodus, remember? So let's calculate. 480 years after the Exodus, that is 2980. But let's go only with the 480 years. So that's 480 years. Yeah, we start from there. We subtract 3 because Solomon was in his 4th year of reign. So that 4th year was not finished yet. So we subtract 3 full years, complete years. Then we subtract 40 years in which Solomon's father David had reigned. And then we subtract another 40 years in which King Saul had reigned. And after that we subtract the 10 years of conquests, remember, of the land, the 7 nations that had to be conquered. And then of course we subtract the 40 years that they were in the desert in order to come to that 2500, remember? So if we subtract all these from 480, we arrive at 347 years. So let's now, we will continue. I think it's better. And then maybe later we will go to the overview. So next slide. This one is quite simple, straightforward. So in the year, the period of Judges ends in 2897 from Adam. So then Saul reigns. King Saul reigns 40 years until this year. So this plus 40 is this, 2937. And after this, David reigns 40 years until 2977. Let's read. Just to confirm, Acts 13:21. And thence they request a king, they, the people of Israel, and God gives them Saul, son of Kish, a man out of the tribe of Benjamin. 40 years. And remember, there was another person by the name of Saul. Yes, exactly, the Apostle Paul. And he, what do you know, was also from the tribe of Benjamin. Isn't that interesting? We continue. 2 Samuel 5 verse 4 to 5. David was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years. In Hebron he reigned over Judah only 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah. You see here also a little rounding issue here, but it's 40 years, just like scripture says. Yes, we go with 40 years. Okay, so everything adds up like a Swiss clock. So let's see if the time is right. I think I'm going to go one more. Maybe next vlog I'm going to go to the overview. So when does Solomon start building the temple? Remember, in 2980. Let's read it again. 1 Kings 6 verse 1. We have read it already. It came to be in the 480th year after the sons of Israel had come forth from the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, that he began to build the house for Yahweh. That was, of course, 2500 plus 480 is 2980. Yes, so we will end. Let's go to the overview quickly, so we can do that quite quickly. So we have in the overview, we were here, the arrival of Jacob, but now we went through everything already. So we went through the Exodus, remember, 2500 from Adam, and that is BC 1466 BC. I promise you, at the end of the whole series, I will go through this overview again very quickly, of course, because you know it already. You can dream it already. But just for as a summary, I will go through this very overview again from beginning to end very quickly. So that was 210 years after the arrival of Jacob in Egypt. That was the Exodus. Here, 40 years of dwelling in the desert. So we arrive at 2540, 10 years of conquest and allotment of the land. Then we arrive at 2550, 347 years of judges. So we arrive at 2897. So the same calculation was done here. So here you can see 40 years. So after judges, 40 years of reign of Saul. 40 years makes this year after Adam, and 40 years of David makes 2977 from Adam, and then 3 years or the 4th year into the reign of Solomon, we arrive at 2980. Yeah, again, little rounding issues, but the big picture is clear and it adds up. And you can see, you can read it from scripture. Scripture is verifying it and confirming it 480 years after the Exodus. So with this said, we end this vlog and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.